DFS show here. Bringing this show to you guys to talk about the MLB slate. I try to do it every weekday. And tonight we have a big slate on our hands. The only game in contention of delay or postpone is the Red Sox at the Orioles. So I'm not going to really mention too much from that game. It could easily still play out, but that's really the only game that has any rain issues tonight, which is always a good thing. It allows us to just, move right on and not worry about that as opposed to everything else we have to worry about in the DFS world. Tonight, there's not really many stud pitchers we want to spend up on like last night, even though Severino did screw me over. I really liked him against the Rays in Tampa Bay, but he didn't really look good at all night. He gave up, I think, 10 hits in like 5 or 6 innings, so DeGrom was the better play last night. For any of you who picked him, good job. Let's try to nail down the pitcher tonight, though. I'm got my eyes on a couple of guys here that I really like. In a few minutes throughout the show, I'm going to say a keyword. You guys should just put it in the chat and just put your username on my website along with that keyword, and I'll give you 5 credits for free as the night rolls on here, but expect it to be in a couple hours because, after this show I'm dealing with all the lineups and dealing with anyone's issues or any questions that people have. So, without further ado, let's jump right into things here tonight, guys. Nola is the top pitcher here tonight, salary-wise. I don't love him. The Dodgers can be a really tough team to pitch to at times, and his price is as high as ever at $11,000. I'm not a huge fan of him tonight, even though he has been great all year. The pitcher I'm really looking at, Garrett Cole, well, you can maybe pick him in a couple GBPs just because he does have a discounted price, but he is in Coors Field. I wouldn't really recommend it. My favorite cash game pitcher tonight is Zach Wheeler. Wheeler is a guy who's been absolutely one of the most consistent guys this year, and at 9,000 you really can't go wrong. He does have that 4 ERA, but if you look at his game log as of late, he's really been finding his way at 30 fantasy points or more. It's a good guy to spend a little bit down on tonight. It's nice to spend down on a middle-tier pitcher tonight because you can pick guys like in the Coors game. The Astros are expected to score a bunch of runs. You can spend up on a couple guys, and I'll tell you the guys you should be spending up on as we go further into this show. But Wheeler is a good play tonight. Could even look at Tanaka. I think he's more of a GPP play, but he is an awesome matchup too tonight against the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't mind him at all, but I liked Severino's matchup last night, and that didn't seem to pan out well. So because of that, I'm going to call Tanaka more of a GPP play. I like Zach Wheeler as a cash game play just because the Padres aren't the best hitting team. DeGrom mowed them down last night, but not surprisingly, DeGrom did not get the win last night. He was actually in line for the loss. I don't know if he ended up getting it, but he was down 3-2 when he got taken out. Which is just bananas how often DeGrom gets a no decision or a loss for how well he pitches. Kind of crazy. But for any cheap pitcher tonight, you could look towards Felix Pena against the White Sox. He's 7,100. He's a pretty heavy favorite from Vegas. He's almost a minus 200 favorite, and he's been pretty decent. If you look at his game log, some solid fantasy points there at a guy for only 7,100. I don't mind him in GPPs tonight. He could be a guy that surprises some people. Could go low owned. As far as pitching goes, though, that's about all that's catching my eye right now. Rather just jump right into the slate. There's a couple games we want to jump right over. I definitely have a couple games I don't want to really talk about, and then a couple games I do want to talk about. So This Dodgers-Phillies game is a game I don't really want to talk about. Both of these pitchers can be really good at times. No need to pick any bats against these pitchers. Noah can be great. Maeda can be pretty great. So, and I'm not really liking either of them. Maybe a GPP here and there, but I don't love this game. Boston, like I said, a little bit of rain issues, but the Red Sox are expected to score a bunch off Yefry, Ramirez. So if things seem to clear up and they look more promising over at Camden Yards, you can definitely spend up on some Red Sox hitters, but there's nothing that's catching my eye in this game either. Nothing, no great value. Minnesota at Toronto. You got Jose Barrios, who can be awesome, but he's in a really tough spot tonight at Toronto. He's actually a pick'em tonight. He's not even a favorite, and the total's pretty high. I'm not going to be really looking to pick at any Blue Jays to hit against Barrios just because there's better hitter matchups tonight. There's no need to target Blue Jays against a great pitcher like Jose Barrios. And then you got Ryan Brookie. I don't think he's anything special. Let's see who the Twins are throwing out tonight. I don't remember liking anyone really. Joe Mauer, he got the lefty-righty matchup. He's done pretty well. But there's nothing really catching my eye. Even his price has gone up. So this game doesn't really catch my eye either. I'd rather not waste time on games like this just because it's not worth talking about. Not even GPP stack worthy, in my opinion. San Diego at the Mets. Now this game has a little bit to talk about. I like Zach Wheeler, like I said. He's a great pitcher to pick in cash games tonight. He's fairly priced. The Padres are not a great hitting team. And then you can even look at the Mets for a GPP stack on the offensive side of things. Eric Lauer, the lefty, he can really get blown up. And there's some pretty well-priced Mets guys here tonight. William Flores, 2,500, batting third. That's a pretty nice option there, 2,500. You even got Asdrubal Cabrera. He's only 3,200. He's a switch hitter, so he'll have the lefty-righty matchup. Batting second. You got Ahmed Rosario leading off at 2,400. Can't go wrong there. None of these guys are cash games, really. Just because it's the Mets, you never know what they're going to get. But they definitely have some great medium risk to high reward upside tonight. And then you could even look at Jose Bautista, 2,900. We all know the power that he brings to the table. He's not the player he once was, but he's in a good spot tonight batting cleanup against the lefty. 2,900 is definitely a price I don't mind paying for, just because he's got some good upside. Again, the Mets are more of a GPP stack tonight than anything. The Yankees at Tampa Bay. You have Tanaka, like I said, who's a pretty good play tonight, GPP worthy. I don't mind picking Wheeler and Tanaka as DraftKings pitchers tonight in cash games. They're pretty solid plays, and they're not too pricey. I wouldn't say they're cheap, but they're not pricey, so can't go wrong here. And then the Yankees, this game just has too low of a total. I know Yanni Chirinos isn't a good pitcher, but all the Yankees are just expensive. It's not really worth spending up in this game. Gregorius 36, and then you got the stud outfielders for the Yankees. I don't think it's worth spending up. Like I said, so Tanaka is a good play here, but the bats, I'm all set with here. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Cleveland is a huge favorite tonight in a pretty high total. I think Vegas has this game. Let's see. Let's double check. 9 total. The Indians are a minus 188 favorite, so they are expected to score a bunch of runs off Joe Musgrove tonight. But there's nothing outside of GPP plays here. Again, we haven't really gotten into any cash game offenses yet tonight, but don't worry, they will be coming up in just a couple minutes. But like any other night, you can stack the Indians for a GPP. You know, Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor, Michael Brantley, they could all have big games. You never know, but they're pretty fairly priced. Nothing to really take advantage of here in cash games. Yonder Alonso batting 5th, 3,200, not a bad play either. But again, nothing to really pick in your cash game lineups tonight. This is a bit of a cash game here. St. Louis at Cincinnati. It's a high total. You got Homer Bailey. I love picking bats against Homer Bailey. It's good to see him back on the mound. Then you got Austin Gomber for the Cardinals. So this game is a good stack. It's definitely a stackable game here. You have a total of, let's see, total of 10.5 here, and it's basically a pick'em. So this is definitely a great game to pick from. You got Matt Carpenter here, hottest hitter in baseball right now, 4,200. Certainly don't mind spending up for him in GPPs and cash games. He's just been so good. He's got that lefty-righty matchup against Homer Bailey. He should see 5 at-bats tonight. He's in a really good spot tonight, even at 4,200. Don't mind Matt Carpenter at all. He's my favorite play in this game. Everyone else is pretty fairly priced. If you wanted to do a Cardinals stack, I don't mind Jose Martinez, Yadier Molina. They're pretty fairly priced at 3,100. Marcell Ozuna is always a decent play, but he's just been so bad as of late. I love him as a player. I'm really rooting for him to get hot, but he just hasn't really been doing it. His numbers aren't terrible, but I just don't really pick him anymore because he hasn't shown any consistency. But, you can pick your poison in this game here. It's got a high total. You really can't go wrong. Suarez, 3,400. He's been a great player all year. Lefty-righty matchup here. He definitely brings some great appeal to the table here. 307 average, 20 dingers, and 72 ribeye steaks here. So Suarez has been really good all year. 3,400 is definitely a fair price for him. I don't mind him either. The third baseman on either side here are great plays. And we're about halfway through this. The second half of this slate is definitely more of a cash game slate based on bats. But that key word, guys, if you want the free 5 Guru credits, again, I'm doing this so I can reward people who are watching this show live and commenting in the chat room. If you just put the letters DFS with your username of my site in the chat room, I'll give you 5 credits. Nothing crazy, nothing to write home about, but just a little incentive for you guys to tune in here. So just put DFS with your username on my website in the chat, and I'll make sure I get back into this and give you your credits. And also, guys, don't feel shy to ask any questions either. That's why I'm here. I'll take a look at the chat every so often and definitely look at that. Let me get into this here. Live chat. Alright, yeah, I see you guys trying to get into that. So Arizona at Chicago here. You got Buchholz against Kyle Hendricks. These two righties can actually be pretty decent at times, but they can also be pretty bad too. This is more of a GPP game as well. Everyone's fairly priced. Really nothing great. Jake Lamb, a pretty decent play. 3,100 is a good price for him. He's pretty cheap. As far as everyone else, Jason Hayward, 31, not a bad play here. We've seen his price higher. He's been pretty hot all year. John Jay's always been a great play at 2,600, leading off against Hendricks. And then even Albert Almora batting at the top of that lineup, 2,500, and Souza. So there's some decent value in this game here in the outfield. I wouldn't go as far as saying that they're cash game plays, but for these 4 guys to be under 3,000 salary, it's a pretty good deal here. So definitely keep an eye on these guys for GPPs for sure. Coming up to probably the best game to play tonight, guys. This is a cash game play for sure. You got Frankie Montas against Mike Minor. This game has a huge total from Vegas. You can't go wrong with either team here. I love the Athletics righties against the lefty Mike Minor. Chris Davis, 3,700. He's a guy I certainly want to spend up on tonight. His power is just really good, and he has 3 homers in his last 2 games, 5 for his last 10. This guy's hot. You definitely want to throw him in as many lineups as you can tonight. This guy just absolutely crushes the ball. So I love Chris Davis. Chad Pinder batting second tonight, 2,500. Another great cash game play. Chu is leading off against a righty, 3,200 isn't a bad play either. Marcus Semien, another great cash game play tonight, 3,200 leading off. This game just oozes cash plays, guys. This is not a game you want to fade at all. Beltre, batting cleanup, he's got his low price, but he's been kind of cold as of late. So, you can take your risk on him. He's not the best play here, but certainly a good one. Odor and Lowry, they're pretty fair prices. Odor's batting second with the righty-lefty matchup. If you're doing a little Ranger stack, I don't hate Odor at all. Jed Lowry's been great all year, 3,100, good play. Don't really like anyone in the catcher first baseman position, though. But everyone else that I mentioned in this game, guys, you really want to look towards. Definitely Chris Davis, Chad Pinder. Joey Gallo's a great GPP play tonight. 2,600, batting 5th. He's got that great power upside. Due to his inconsistency and bad average, though, he's not really a cash game play. more of a GPP, but he could easily hit 2 homers for you, making him a nice high risk, high reward player. Washington at Milwaukee. This has a pretty high total as well. You got Junior Guerra coming off of the DL, so he's going to be a little rusty, might have a little pitch limit. And then Jeremy Hellickson, who's a guy who can be really good at times, but also really bad. Let's see. Zimmerman's 2,600 batting cleanup. Don't hate him. Wouldn't say he's a cash game play. Hasn't been great, but 2,600 is definitely a salary that catches my eye on him. Murphy's a fair price at 2,800. Go with him. As far as everyone else, is the Brewers lineup not out yet? I'd be surprised. This game isn't even late. 8:10. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, is this it? Yeah. Oh, Eric Thames is back tonight. Okay. I don't mind Eric Thames then. He's only 3,000. He was on the DL, so his price isn't fixed. So, yeah, from what I'm looking at that site, it looks like Eric Thames is batting leadoff tonight. He's got that lefty-righty matchup against Hellickson. Thames is probably the best play in this game, guys. He's a guy that you can fit into your cash lineups. He's got great power, and I love when he leads off. He can actually steal bases, too. He's in a great spot tonight. Even Travis Shaw, I think he's batting 5th, lefty-righty matchup. Oh, sure. 3,200, we'll go with him, too. I like him against Jeremy Hellickson. These Brewers guys are actually catching my eye pretty late here. Let's see. Saladino, I hate him. He sucks. But yeah, Thames and Shaw are definitely guys you could look at. Yelich is pretty expensive, but if you're doing a Brewer stack, I don't mind him either. So keep an eye on that. Lorenzo Cain, he's batting 2nd. He's only 3,400. So yeah, the Brewers are a pretty good team to stack in this game, guys. Detroit and Kansas City. This game is another great game to stack. I think this has a pretty high total too. Let's see. Yeah, a 9 total. It's basically a pick'em. You got Jordan Zimmerman against Birch Smith, both right-handed pitching. They're not good right-handed pitchers, so you can definitely look at some bats here. There's some good value. Perez, 2,900. I picked him last night. Did absolutely nothing for me. Duda's a pretty good price, too, with the lefty-righty matchup. Zimmerman has been known to give up the long ball, so I don't mind Lucas Duda here just because of his power upside. Whit Merrifield's a pretty good player, 3,400. He steals bases. He gets on a lot. Not a bad price for him. Moustakas, 3,400. Not bad either. There's definitely some guys to pick from in this game. This game is pretty, it's a pretty juicy game to pick from. It's a high total. These guys are pretty fairly priced. Castellanos, 3,200. Lorenz Martin leading off isn't bad. I like Rosel Herrera. He had 3 hits last night. 2,200, almost bare minimum here. So he has some great value if you want to spend down on an outfielder tonight. He's not a bad play at 2nd tonight. Even Jim Aducci batting 6th, almost minimum. I'm pretty sure he had a good game last night as well for the Tigers. Yeah, he went 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, a double. He's got that lefty-righty matchup too against Birch Smith. So Aducci could be a good play too as a nice little punt play at 2,100 in the outfield. So this game definitely shows some good value. Definitely a thing to keep your eye on as you're making your lineups later on. This next game, Houston, another Coors game. Definitely don't look at the Rockies hitters. Even though it's in Coors Field, I'm not trying to spend up on Rockies hitters who are hitting against such a good pitcher in Garrett Cole. It's not worth it. As far as Astros hitters go, though, there's some good value here. Yuri Gurriel, 3,500 is a very fair price for him in Coors Field. He's batting cleanup tonight. He's probably the best play in this game. If you're looking to get some exposure to this game, Gurriel is a great play. Altuve's even pretty fairly priced at 4,500. He's one of the best hitters in the league, and he's at Coors Field. You would expect him to be 5,000. 4,500, can't complain about that price. Bregman, 4,700, that's a little pricey, but for good reason. I certainly don't mind you guys spending up on this game. Springer, 4,400, not a bad play either. These righties at the top of this Astros lineup could have an absolute field day against Tyler Anderson. Springer, Bregman, Altuve, Gurriel, those 4 guys right there could absolutely have a huge game with the ball flying out in their power. You can't go wrong here, so definitely try to spend up on a couple guys here. Definitely the right route there. Chicago at the Angels. This game's pretty decent. I'm more liking the Angel side of things against Rodon. Like I said at the beginning, I like Felix Pena as a GPP pitcher just because the White Sox aren't a good hitting team, and he's been really good as of late. If you look at his game log, I've already talked about this, but his last few 5-6 games here, he's been really good. So 7,100 is a pretty good flyer to spend down on. As far as Angels bats go, if Kinsler's, it's tough to predict because we don't know the Angels lineup. But against the lefty, I would expect Ian Kinsler to be leading off here. So if he is, he's not a bad play at 3,200. Even Andrelton Simmons is probably batting second tonight. 2,900 is a good price for him. Mike Trout, obviously, always a good play. I had him last night. He had a weird game last night. I don't know if you guys saw this. He went 0 for 0 in the stat book, but he had 4 at-bats. So he just had 4 walks, 2 stolen bases, and an RBI. He had 27.5 fantasy points without even getting a hit. I mean, if there's any guy who can do that, it's Mike Trout. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. But this guy is just a walking fantasy machine. So he's never a bad guy to spend up on, rather. I don't mind him. Justin Upton is not a bad play either. He should be batting cleanup. But that's about it for that game. And then this game, I don't like this game really at all. Suarez can be good at times, but he can also be bad. James Paxton coming off of the DL. He could be on a pitch limit. He is a huge favorite tonight, but it's not enough for me to look at him. He's just a little sketchy coming off the DL. So I don't really like any bats in this game either. And that sums up this slate, guys, in a nutshell. It's a big slate. There's some definitely good games to pick from here tonight. Oakland at Texas, Detroit at Kansas City, and then you want to look at some Astros bats at Coors Field. The Mets are a good GPP stack tonight. And like I said, if anyone's tuning in now, just type in the chat DFS with your FD Guru site username, and I'll give you 5 credits. Let me just look through the chat here, see if there's any questions. Any love for the Mariners tonight? Oh, I just talked about this. I don't know. Andrew Suarez, he is a lefty, and there's some good right-handed bats in that Mariners lineup. But he can be pretty good at times. 3.94 ERA. If you look at his game log, he can really light it up at times. Unless there's some crazy value on the Mariners side of things, which I don't see anything. Haniger and Cruz are fairly priced. You'd only want to look at righties because of the lefty pitcher for the Mariners. So Segura's 3,900. I mean, to say I have any love for the Mariners, I definitely don't. I guess if you want to do a GPP lineup, if you have a gut feeling about them tonight, go for it. But definitely not something I'm gonna suggest that you do. I don't love them tonight. I don't like that game in general, to be honest. It's a low total. It's really a toss-up, hard to predict. So, think 2-2-2 stacks is the way to go. I'm assuming you mean 2 players from 3 different teams. Kind of hard to do. That's only 6 players, so maybe you mean 2-2-2-2, which I've done before. That's 2 players from 4 different teams. I don't mind that at all if you can find some value. I do like pairing guys, whether it's 2 guys or 4 guys. It's always good in baseball to have players on the same team because they normally complement one another. Unlike basketball, you really only want to pick 1 or 2 guys because chances are not everyone's going to go off. It's not really as much of a team sport as baseball is. So, I don't mind that if you do 2 players from 4 different teams as a stack. Not a bad idea. If there's 4 teams you really like tonight and really can't make your mind up, I've done it before. I certainly don't mind it at all. So, let's see. Anything else? No. All right, so yeah, guys, just put in DFS with your username on my site, and then I'll give you 5 Guru credits. I thank you for tuning in, and until tomorrow, most likely, I'm the FT Guru. I'm signing off.